We'll sync it. This is how we sync it. Oh, you screwed it up.
Oh.
All right. That's what we look like. You look like you're 7 feet tall relative to me.
Fantastic. Handsome.
And you look very handsome.
I look like you've been up since 6 o'clock in Ottawa.
Do you ever sleep?
No.
No, you're always on Facebook Live with an Uber driver.
I try.
I love your relationship with Uber drivers.
Do you?
Yes.
I got to work on them.
No.
Can I get a coffee?
Yes, hold on. In my house today, a little intro. Please, please, if you may. Don't speak until the end. Good to see you. In my house today, the one, the only, dancing guy, super fan, motivational expert, crowd whisperer, Cameron Hughes is here!
I made it.
That was episode 59. You finally got the invite to be on the podcast. It's good to have you here. You're in town to dance because you're a professional dancer.
I'm an extreme.
We're gonna do a lot of talking here. You look shocked for a minute. We're gonna talk for an hour.
Oh wow! Okay.
1 hour.
Okay.
Just like we used to back in the university days, late at night, snuggled up in each other's arms. You drink a coffee black?
Having a little grec.
A little Village Grec, number student special number 4. You're drinking your coffee black. Today,
Extra mayo.
Extra mayo, no tomatoes.
Yeah, no tomatoes.
That's for you.
This is a thrill to be
Black
here.
coffee. Don't spill it on Tony Harris's
I'll put it on.
sketch.
I'll put it on Stu right here.
Stu, smudge it out.
Love Stu.
Smudge out the stunt man.
I got goosebumps
Stu.
driving over here. I was very excited
Because
we have a lot of history.
yes, a lot of history.
For real.
We do.
Yeah.
We both we fell in love in the early '90s. Cheers.
With each other.
Yeah, with each other.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm supposed to.
who else would we
cheers,
fall
Tom.
in love with?
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
You're walking through the quad, and I held your bags. I think.
Yeah, you carried my bags. It was then that I was
play
carrying
football
you.
for the Gators.
Yes, we did meet very first day of Frosh Day, 1990. Is that right, or 91? 90?
1990, we were getting our Frosh overalls from the one and only Ted Grand.
Yeah, let's get closer to your microphone. Get to speak right into it.
Yeah, from Ted Grand at Bishop's back in the days in
Yes.
1990. We met the first day, which we were a Frosh group together.
Yes,
And here we are.
and we ripped the sleeves off our.
You ripped my sleeves
I
off.
ripped the sleeves. I wanted to see your arms. That's just like a mating ritual. Foreplay.
You don't forget that. You ripped everyone's sleeves off their things.
That's
and
right.
Nobody was going to argue with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It was all about dominance, male dominance. I ripped everybody's sleeves off of their coveralls.
Yeah.
Just to see what they had underneath there.
And everyone said, okay, let's go. Let's play.
Let's do
and
it.
we've been playing ever since.
That's right. It was love at first sight, for sure. I remember being taken right away by your energy, by who is this guy, this person who's not on the football team, showing so much interest in school and partying and having a good time, right?
You do remember that, really?
I totally
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, very unique. I don't think I've ever met a person like you. The rest of my life, and everybody who meets you says the same sort of thing. It's a very unique person, quality, a mixture of confidence and energy, and just never giving up on things.
Oh, thank you. It's very...
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Way to drop the lead on that one, eh? Well, yeah, I mean, Bishop's was a great place for us to kind of get our seeds going, you know? We were lucky to go there. I think it really helped us, you know? I think we already had something, if that's fair to say, at Bishop's. Small school.
Yes.
And I think it just helped us foster sort of what the talents and the things we liked, you know? And then second year... Do you remember second year what you said to me? Because I tell this story a lot.
Oh, go ahead. Let's tell.
Okay, so second year we're living together. I'm not sure who was messier. It doesn't matter. We're living together at the Pink House, and it's the fall, and you're playing football for the Gators. You're becoming a big star, and in your own eyes. And and you said to me one day, I don't remember the day, but you said you've got to do something different at the football games. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you'll figure it out. Or something like that, right? And the next Saturday, I went to the local Provigo. I bought a watermelon, carved it out, made some signs, showed up at the field, and you looked at me like, I didn't think you were going to go that far.
Yeah, genius.
Do you remember?
Yeah. I do remember. And I had seen something on TV where guys had pumpkins on their head.
Yeah.
And I remember maybe talking to you about that, and then you went to Provigo. Maybe it wasn't pumpkin season, although it probably would have been. But you came up with it all on your own, the watermelon idea, and I remember seeing it and going, that is just perfect.
I remember walking into the produce section and asking the guy, I'm pretty big head, right? I don't know if you can tell. And asking the guy, I'm like, can I get the big watermelon? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, no big deal. meal.
Yeah.
And I think I did 25 watermelons over the years.
Wow, that's impressive.
People always used to say, "Is it the same one?" I'm like, "Yeah. We keep it fresh in the freezer." And I had a few pops at the beginning. Yeah. I did. I have to confession. And then I couldn't have any drinks while I was performing when I went to the games anymore. Like
really?
You just couldn't do it. No,
that's
people.
Not true.
100%
That
true.
was all cocaine fueled?
Yes. No, it was all natural. Like
Yeah.
I 100% admit that I used to go and have a couple beers before the game. I'd carve out the melon. I'd paint my face. I'd get the signs ready. I'd walk to. Remember, we'd have the big DJ booths and parties before.
Yep. Well, I was actually not part of
Yeah, that's true. You were like stretching and getting ready to play.
Doing some calisthenics.
But those are amazing times. Just being part of the spirit. And that was like, I remember doing the pep rallies for the team, and everyone came together. It was so cool. You know,
there was always at the football games. I mean, it was always a great environment, and there's definitely everyone knew when the watermelon guy got there. Okay, I mean, it usually
Melonhead. Please.
Melonhead. Sorry, the football game's going great, and you're in your own zone. You don't really notice what the crowd is kind of doing, and they're just sort of disorganized. But then there's this energy, this feeling that something is different. You know, watermelon head. Melonhead was in the house. You felt it. It was palpable. It was a definite shift in energy, and definitely had an outcome on the game for sure, 100%. All the guys would turn around, and you'd feel that energy from the crowd, from you, and it was. I always look back to what you do now, or I look at what you do now and see that you must have felt it then. That was the rush, the drug. You say you didn't need booze after that, but that's the drug, right? That's the feeling. It's being able to talk to all or communicate with all these people and get them all on the same page and get them, going in the same way.
Yeah, it's funny being back in Ottawa. I haven't told the story a lot, but I was 11 years old at an Ottawa Rough Riders game with my dad, and I'll never forget the section I was in, and the mascot comes over, and I looked at my dad. I said, "Dad, I think I can do a better job than the mascot." My dad's looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily, can I dance better? Am I more funny? But I felt I knew what to do to get the crowd going. Mm-hmm. And it's always been something that's been in me. And Bishop's allowed me to try things, to grow, and I appreciate you saying those nice words. And I just wanted to be that spark. It's been like my whole thing, my whole life, being a spark.
Yep.
And it's as simple as that. And just being able to have that moment where you whether it was at Coulter Field when I come in, or whether it's tonight at a Sens game, it's like coming in and like that moment where you're like, all right, let's shift the energy. Mm-hmm. Let's go from, well, hey, this was fun to we're here. Mm-hmm. And, Bishop's allowed me to do that, allowed me to grow and take chances, and took a few too many chances, but let's not get into that.
We will get into that.
Okay, we can.
Yeah.
And, and it was like a great training ground, even going to the pub and dancing like a lunatic, and then being involved with student life and selling T-shirts like we both did.
Yes.
All that stuff led to where I am. It led to, where a lot of us are,
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of our different friends who, it's a great foundation.
Yeah, it gives us the opportunity to make mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. Let's go backwards then. So Ottawa, help yourself to my coffee.
Really delicious.
Yeah, it's so good. It's all I consume in the mornings now is coffee, just to maintain your
unbelievable
feeling.
Yeah, you were a lot bigger at Bishop's the second year. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, well, that's a pure opposite of the way I sort of eat now.
It's the opposite, actually. I was a lot smaller at Bishop's.
You were smaller. Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know.
This is ridiculous.
Life, time is a cruel equalizer. Gravity, for
I can
sure.
Still move, though. Don't you? Don't sweat it.
Well, let's before we get back to your history timeline, let's talk about your dancing.
Oh,
because it's not bad. It's not that you're a bad dancer. You're really. It's a unique sort of dance, but it's got so much confidence behind it that it's entertaining, right? Like, remember Johnny Shaka, man, that guy could dance.
Yeah, the guy was a professional dancer.
Dancer. I mean, well, you're a professional dancer, too. Discount yourself.
In a strange way, I am, yeah. Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I just don't care. You know, and at the end, people also don't understand this.
Don't care.
It's really hard to dance on those stairs while you're focusing on the fans.
You must have terrific calf muscles.
I have pretty strong calf. I have pretty good ankle braces, that's for sure.
Oh, you wear ankle braces?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I stretch. It's hard to dance on those stairs. So you just go, and you have to have the confidence, because as soon as you get up, that's my whole thing. As soon as you get up in front of the crowd, you have to own it.
Yeah.
No matter what. Even sometimes you get up and the song's wrong, but you're like, you start, you got to keep going. And that's when you grab the fan and you make the fan, that's my big thing anyhow, getting the fans to be part of what I'm doing.
That's a big part
and you get them to dance like a, lunatic with you. And when you get that, like whether it's the 8-year-old or the 7-year-old, whoever it is, that's when I know, I'm like, okay, this is why I'm here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's right.
This is why the team brought me in, for those moments that make the other people the stars of the show. That's always been
Right.
the best pictures I've been in, Mark. The best videos are other people are the stars. And just I think it's my fearlessness, if I can say that, that allows that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely something I've turned to over the years is your confidence. I mean, back when you weren't this melon head guy and everything. I mean, one time we went to a movie. Movie was packed. You remember this?
Yeah.
And the fire alarm goes off.
Yeah.
And then everyone's just started getting edgy. Like, is this going to stop? Whatever. And Cameron, you, stands up. We were like near the front, goes in the front, and turns around and takes an opportunity to start talking to this 200 seat auditorium where everyone's getting, and people loved it. They thought it was hilarious. But then,
I remember that.
Do you remember what you did? You were talking to them and they all loved it. They thought it was funny. Here's this super confident guy getting up. And then you went, this was my publicity stunt. Everybody kind of turned against you. But then you said, I'm having a party on the weekend.
Oh, yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And everyone kind of got angry because they thought you were serious, that you'd pulled the fire alarm and everything. But then people came up to you after and thought that was an amazing thing that you'd done, right? Got up there and just entertained them during the
Well, I think there's a lot of moments that we have where you want that to happen. You know, it's like the crazy uncle at the wedding. And you're like, okay, we need someone to be the party starter.
Yeah.
You know, you and I have been to a few events together where, you know, you've done it, I've done it.
Yeah.
A lot of our different friends and people have the personalities that you're like, come on, get it going.
That's right.
And there's times where I haven't got it going and I'm like, oh, I wish I had.
Yes, I know that feeling. And I know that's inside you.
Remind me today to tell you one of my top 5 regrets. You were involved in it.
Oh,
No, we can't do it right now.
Okay, we're going to get to it though?
Yeah, we're gonna get to
I
it.
love that. Okay,
Yeah.
That's great. So, and that's another one of your qualities, and it is that you're never happy with, not happiness, but you're never completely, I guess maybe happy with what you're doing now. You know what I mean? You're always striving for something more. If we're in a place and you're making people laugh, you want to go see if you can make people laugh at the other side of the room. You know that feeling where it's always when we're out with Cam, we know we're not going to stay in one place for very long because he's entertained everybody here. He's worked the magic. The charm is out. He wants to go and see if he can do it at the place next door.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've slowed down with a bit of that because it's exhausting. You know, I think when I moved to California, I realized you can't entertain everyone and everyone in the room wants to be the entertainer.
Right.
I think that was a good sort of learning curve of like, just be you and you don't have to be the life of the party. So you pick your spots, you know, and I think now, you're right though, back in the day, I mean, we used to do that all the time. You'd go from place to place. All right, let's go.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
exhausting.
I'm on the guest list.
Yeah. I'm on the guest list at every bar, by
Or
the
you
way.
would call ahead and you're like, I'm bringing in Jason Shore. You're not going to believe it. And then you get there and you're like, where's Jay Shore? It's like, this guy. Nobody knows who Jay Shore
Doesn't
is,
matter,
but he's there.
Still doing stuff like that, but yeah.
Of course, I hope so. But okay, so let's see where it all comes from then.
Okay.
Born and raised in Ottawa.
Born and raised not far from here, actually, yeah.
Yep.
Born and raised in Ottawa, parents, middle class. Mom was a nurse. Dad worked in the government.
Yeah.
Sister, 2 years older.
Yeah.
Parents got divorced at 8.
Okay.
And then my mom, unfortunately, came home one day from school and she told us she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Okay.
And she's going to beat it, no problem. And back in the day, it's like late 80s, right? We didn't have the awareness that we have right now for like all the, the pink events and all that sort of stuff. And went back to school, tried our best. And then 2 years later, got worse. And my mom passed away when I was 16. Obviously, insanely difficult, defining moment in my life, and
16, hey? Wow, I
just turned 16.
I knew when I met you that it happened, but I didn't realize. And at that time, years are much different, right, than they are now. I mean, I met you like 4 years later, right? And that's what year was that? Was that 85?
It was 88. She passed away.
So it's similar to when my brother passed away, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar sort of
How
life
old were you?
experiences. I was 15,
Yeah.
85.
Yeah.
His birthday was yesterday. And,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so and those do have impacts on us, right? We're in these young, formative years and these things happen and we develop a personality or a character to overcome these things. And that's, I mean, clearly what's sort of made Cameron Hughes, right?
Well, yeah, you develop a lot of things. You develop resilience, you develop a wall, you develop, like you said, a personality and a character that's like, nothing's going to stop me. And I think that I had a really profound moment in this past April, and I'll try not to cry, but it was the 30th anniversary of my mom's passing. And I realized that I never allowed my mom's story to be my story. I've let it be my fuel. And I think if like when you go through stuff like that at a young age, which is super hard, as you know, and I learned, and people learn, is that if you just sit there and drown in it, it's not going to help you.
Yep.
But you've got to let it become your fuel. Yep. And I think it's a really important thing that I learned. And it was hard, obviously. It's still hard.
Very hard, for
you
sure.
know, I mean,
Yep.
you have kids and a wife, and moments where you're like, I wish, but you celebrate what you had, and my mom gave me a lot of great gifts. At the end of the day, she gave me the gift of, someone asked me recently, do you love sports? I'm like, I love connecting with people more. I think, you and I know that and my mom gave me that gift. So for me, I can live my mom's legacy as best I can. And what better gift than that, right?
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I know your sister really well and your father really well, and the only person I never met in that equation was your mom, obviously. And it's sort of I see the parts in you that really kind of aren't. You know what I mean? It's almost like I know your mom because of who you are.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's I mean, obviously, I'm super impressed by her, right? Obviously, but yeah, and like you said, it is the.
She would have loved you.
Oh, thanks. It is the fuel, right? It is the reason why we achieve things when we have these things. And you sort of, and for me, it was I didn't want the legacy of my brother's life being of me giving up and quitting on things. It was me just never giving up on things, right? And that's what fueled me for the next 10 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, and your story of making him proud and all the different milestones that you achieved, you're like, I'm going to do this. Nothing's going to stop me. And I think that, when you're going through it and it's really difficult moments, that you have to realize that you become stronger. I think your foundation becomes a little stronger inside. You get that, like I said, the resilience of nothing's going to stop me.
Yep.
The worst thing in the world just happened. What have I got to lose, right?
That's right.
And that for me was like a turning point, especially in high school when I was in Ottawa. Like I wasn't doing that well in school, shocking. Never really did. But when you're dealing with that, who cares? But I went back to school, and that's when it changed. I went back and I was trying out for my high school basketball team. I didn't make it, so I went and cheered on my buddies instead.
Yeah.
And I became Mr. School Spirit at high school. I became student president the next year. And everyone's like, well, your mom just died. And I'm like, yeah, I got to keep living. And it was my mom's gift and all her, great attributes that allowed me to see that,
So you went right back to, what time of year did she pass away?
April.
It's April. So then you had sort of the summer, and you've come back and you found you're a different kind of person.
Just didn't. I had this new fearlessness in me.
Yeah. I mean, that's ever since I've known you, there has been that fearlessness, right? I mean, right from the very first day I met you.
Really?
For first of all, think about this though. Like when people go to Bishops and they're on the football team and they have this sort of a giant relationship with each other, and then here's this guy who's not on the football team who just comes in and decides he's going to be friends with everybody. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of balls, man. You know what I mean? And I don't know anyone else who felt they could do that. And right away, Cam Hughes is friends with everybody on the team, and he never played a down football. So it's definitely a fearlessness that I noticed right away, and that's what draws people to you and maybe away from you. I have no idea.
There's a few people who throw things, but hey.
Yeah. So okay, you go to high school, and then you run for students council, and that year.
The next year. And I became student president with another guy, and it was one of the greatest years of my young life. Just being a leader, and a really close friend was Barry Lawton. He was our student advisor, and he was a geography teacher at Lisgar, a very well-known teacher. And he was the guy who said, "I believe in you."
He's an adult. He's
a teacher, adult, and I visit him whenever I'm in Ottawa still. And he was the guy who said, "I believe in you." He knew the shit I'd gone through, and he's like, I'm going to empower you to go out and be the leader the school needs right now.
Wow.
And he was the guy, to this day. He's one of the most influential people in my young life, because he was like, he wasn't on my shoulder, as a student leader. He was just like, go try stuff.
Yeah.
Go be you. And he gave me that gift at a young age that and sure, I made mistakes. We all make mistakes. But at the end of the day, he still says this to this day, that year was one of the most spirited, fun, crazy years they'd ever had, because he just let me go and be me.
Wow. I just had goosebumps when you said that for some reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's people that at the time we don't realize, but these people, they go out and they do something a little bit extra that shape our whole lives.
Man,
like I have football coaches like that, and at the time you don't realize how important they are. You just think they're someone saying words to you, but you look back at it and you realize, oh man, nobody else did that. That guy did that, and you put the lines together and you go, that's the reason who I am today. And then you say, well, how do I do that for other people, right? And that seems to be like...
How do you do that for other people?
Yeah.
That's it right there. How do you do that for other people? How do you... you know this, but I use a lot of like about cheering people on, right? And I think that's the whole thing. When someone takes a chance, cheer them on.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Whatever it might be.
Yep.
And there's a picture of me in the hallway at Lisgar with Barry Lawton, the student advisor to the student council, and we're both kind of standing there, and I'm wearing like honestly the worst Seinfeld sweater, but he was just like, we're just like two buds talking. And it's one of my favorite pictures because it was like, he was just like, just be you.
Yeah.
And I think that what I love is I've kept a relationship over the years, not as much as sometimes as you want, but it's let people know.
Yes.
Like, let people know. Like, I've let past a few other professors at Bishop's, a couple people know that, like, Tommy Allen's a great example. Someone who, like, always stood up for me, always believed in me through some of the, highs and lows at Bishop's. And, maybe I haven't even let him know enough.
Yep.
But it's important, like you said, the coaches who, Coach Breck who called you and said, Mark, come to Bishop's. I'm going to give you a shot.
Amazing person in my life. Huge person for sure.
Does he know?
Yeah, I've told him many times. I've sent him messages and his daughters and his wife messages for sure. Went through a health scare a couple of years ago, and I sent him a message about how important he was in my life and still continues to be. His effect on me is that effect on many, many other people, right? Every time I go to a school to speak, I mention his name and say that he's the one, man. He
gave you that shot. He gave you that gift of say, hey, Mark, I believe in you.
You're right.
And I think we need to do more of that. I really do.
Yep. When no one else would. He was the guy who was there and believed in me. Someone who believes in you when you're a teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And gone through this whole thing where your brother passed away and you question everything in the world. And, your parents are there for sure. And there are the family around you. But when some guy who you don't even know shows up and is like, phones you in the morning to make sure you had your homework done and you're on your way to school, then someone cares and you just keep moving forward, right? Like those are...
Were you angry when that happened?
When he called me?
No, when your brother passed, like... Was that one of your first reactions?
No, I really didn't know how to handle the whole situation. I thought about it more recently than I had in the past, and it's strange because there's all these people that are coming to you and asking you if you believe in God, and you start like, well, I don't know. I'm 14. I don't know what I believe in. I don't know what this is all about. I know is tomorrow when I wake up, my brother won't be there. Yeah. And so you start questioning things, and that's at that point when it happened, the day it happened, I can remember people being downstairs in my house, and I was upstairs, and I had no idea. I didn't see it coming, although I should have, and I look back on it and I should have seen it coming. But it's just so, I get maybe a kid, you're in your own world, and I was playing football at the time, and it happened the day I was playing a playoff game, and so to me, that was what was going on in the world. And after I got off the field, that's when I found out my brother had passed away that day. My uncle took me to Chio, and I saw my father crying, and he came out and told me, and it was obviously like, it's, a 180, the whole world shifted. And I went upstairs when I got home, and I didn't know how to handle any of this. And I remember I wrote a letter. I sat down and I got a piece of paper and I started writing a letter like it was communicating to my brother. And that's when I sort of set all these goals that I thought, and it made me feel better that I made these promises to him. And that's what fueled me for years, was these promises that I'd made. And at the time I never really told anybody. I remember when I started giving my speech, I told this part of it, and people are like, it's a bit gruesome. But I wrote that piece of paper, and I tied it all up, and I remember he was buried with this piece of paper and like the promises to him. And I felt so attached to those promises that I just never gave up and never stopped. And there's an important point too, is that once I started telling people many years later what was on that piece of paper is when they started to become more possible. Everyone around you, and we talked about this a minute ago, everyone around you starts, whether they know it or not, helping you move in that direction, right? He's done this. And like, your friend, the advisor, he obviously, he obviously saw, this in you and was like helping you move in that direction when you didn't know where you were really going. And it's an important thing. And I tell people, like, don't keep your dreams, don't keep your goals, the things you want to overcome a secret, man. Tell everybody, right? Stand up.
Share that and let people be part of your gift and your talent. And
for sure. He said, I don't know if I was angry. A lot of things were going on. You know what? I've had moments, maybe 10 years, 20 years removed, where I look back at things and things didn't go my way, and I got angry about people who weren't super nice.
Part of them?
Well, yeah, who weren't super nice to the guy whose brother had just passed away. And I shouldn't have been, right? Because those people are, don't do me any favors because of that. But I can remember thinking, I didn't get that job. Why didn't you give me that job that I applied for that summer? And my brother just passed away, Which is a ridiculous statement.
Why are you charging me parking?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Why did you fail? Maybe fail that test? And I had teachers who would do things, and all this stuff was going on around me.
It's against the world sort of thing. Yeah,
I didn't realize, but those are all, I mean, they're all people who are just trying to, kid gloves move you all in that direction for sure. And it has a big effect, and everybody has something like this. And maybe it's not as dramatic as losing somebody, but they'll have like a family breakup, or anything can go wrong. Even it sounds ridiculous, but like, a pet dying or something. When it's the first thing that you lose, and you start, your brain goes, wow, life isn't forever. You know what I mean? As a child, especially, in that age, 14, 15, whatever, as a teenager, man, it's a shocking thing. And you have to learn and develop tools to overcome them. And I think, you and I had similar stories, which we probably never even really talked about until maybe this moment. You know what I mean? That it happened.
This level.
Yeah, this level.
For sure. I mean, I think it's like, and that's one thing I've realized too, having then lost my dad a couple years ago, as you know, and that was out of the blue, is that, because it happened suddenly, I was like talking to more friends about death.
Yeah.
And about loss, and saying, hey, go call your parents and ask them if they have a plan. Ask them what's in order. Ask them all that stuff, because we're afraid to talk about it. Yep. At the end of the day, it's part of our life, and I think it's so important to. I mean, let's talk about some happy stuff, but you know what I mean?
We'll get to that for sure. Dave was a great guy, and for sure, in the point in his life and in my life when we met, it was like we were friends. You know what I mean? And so were you, and that was a great thing to see, because we would go over to your house.
Yeah.
Remember this story? We'd go over to your house to do some drinking.
Can we edit this out?
No, it's great. It's great. It's a great thing. It's because it's funny. We go over to your house we were drinking before we go out. We were 20 years old, and your dad's there, and he's clearly with us, right? We're going to a party, and we all get a cab, and we're going down. We're heading to the market, so we're going whatever street it is there, and your dad is in the front seat, and I'm like, he's going with us. This is great. And he taps the driver on the shoulder, and the guy pulls over, and your dad's like, thanks, guys, and he ditches the cab. Basically getting a free cab ride from us and ditching us. I'm like, that's cool, man. Yeah, and that's. That's who he was, and it was a nice opportunity to meet him, and to see an adult or someone's parent. It was sort of the first time where we were friends. You know what I mean?
Accepting everyone. I think that's where I was really lucky with my parents. They accepted all my friends and brought them in as part of our community. And I think that's something that, I look back 25 years later performing at these events, and I looked at, like, if you look at the, ironically, I studied sociology. Yes. I know you did for a couple hours.
Yes, I did as well.
But it's like the study of connecting with people and what happens when we all come together in a community and all that. Like, if I really look back at the craziness of the last 25 years, that's with big influence. My parents being, open and connecting and come on in, and
so
your friend
important.
needs a place to stay, let them stay here.
Yeah. It's so important that we talked about the liberal education at Bishop's University. We both probably got accepted into sociology and just took it because it was a thing to do, and the irony of it, how important it's been in our lives, and how important it is in the world we live in now, right? At the time, we lived in a very different world, but now it's all about communication, right? That's the 100% of figuring everything out.
And what do we all want?
Right.
We want to feel connected.
Yep.
Right? Yep. But not just to, our phones, to like real stuff,
And so those things we learned, they have had real effect on our lives.
So
right?
crazy.
Like it is crazy.
Should we call our bishops sociology professors right now?
Loretta Zernis. Thank you so much. Do you remember any other names from Bishop's sociology? Ludwig or Mr. Remember the guy with the beard and the Birkenstocks?
I do remember
there?
him.
He was to me the university professor, the Birkenstocks and the patches on the sleeves and the big beard that he would play with. And I'm like, that guy is like a wizard.
I remember a philosophy professor, Dr. Jamie Brooks.
Yes, for sure.
He was like the guy that you could go have a beer with.
Yeah. There was lots of guys you could have a bear with for sure at Bishop's. Absolutely. That was a great thing about it. Like you said, small environment where you go down to the local pub and they're sitting there at the bar, and you know they're not at home marking your exam. Here's an opportunity.
You might get some questions before the last beer.
Buy a couple beers for sure. So what was the decision to go to Bishop's? You've gone from Lisgar High School.
Lisgar to a small school. It was not too far from Ottawa. I knew a couple people there. I'd visited a couple years earlier when it was a bit more of the Animal House days, and it was just the right fit for me. I ended up running for student president my second year. Might have had some academic issues. Took some time off. And that's where my life changed when I went to the Sens game.
Okay, so that's a great point,
Did you know
though. I want to get to that for sure, but it's also Like you failed out. You
Let's call it as it is.
Well, you did. Because
I did.
It's a huge.
I failed
like
that.
you're the most resilient person. You know what I mean? Like here you are. You've put everything you got into running for Students' Council president. I remember we were living together at the time, and the whole thing, and our cat died. You remember that cat?
Yeah.
And this terrible tragedy we had to overcome. And you won by a very small margin to Chad Shella, or a huge margin. I have no idea. But anyways, I thought it was massive. You had like 4 people, whatever. And then you didn't get back into school the next year. Right?
Yeah, they wanted my marks to go up. The administration didn't love me, a bit more of the rebel. And then, my marks didn't go up. So they called me in at the end of the summer, went to summer school, and I just wasn't.
Oh yeah, and so you did. You did something to try and get back in.
I tried to get back in. Marks didn't go up enough. Whether they did or they didn't, who knows what happened. And that September, I was like the most humbling experience of my life. Was the students go back? They think I'm going to be the president. Yeah. And I'm in Ottawa weeding lawns and working at a tennis club or whatever I was doing. Working at a bar, bartending.
Yeah, with Adam. I remember that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a difference in my life, obviously, because that energy of Cam Hughes was no longer
Yeah, we were
there.
supposed to be roommates.
Yeah, and I had to find. Oh, James Brown came and moved into your room.
Yeah.
You remember James Brown?
I do.
Yeah, and so how do you handle that? And did you at that point make a plan that I'm going to go back, or
I was like, that was sort of, I think, probably when everything hit me with my mom. Not to, I was like just on this sort of 2-3 year tear of like trying to be involved and trying to like use all these different outlets to, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. We were selling T-shirts. I was selling clothes to make do, and I didn't know. And then I went back to Bishops the next year, and then I was like, this isn't for me. And that's the year that January I went to the Sens game, and that's when it all kind of changed for me. Okay. I got up and danced at the Sens game, and then it all made sense at that point in a weird way. I started doing the hockey games. It was really weird.
So that was, you went to a game at the Civic Center.
94.
Was that their first year back?
Second year there.
Your second year, and you and your dad had sort of season tickets.
Yeah,
or
we
something.
I remember. Yeah, I used to bring you to games.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was at the very next game. Yeah. After you did your dance, I remember everybody looking at you, going, "That's the guy there."
Yeah. Yeah. Might have had a few pops the second time.
Yeah. So okay, let's take us to that first night. You didn't mention that you were at the Sens game, and the Sens.
January 8th, 94. Team wasn't doing very well. They're playing the Winnipeg Jets. There's 20 feet of snow out, and of course we all went to the game. 10,000 people at the Civic Center. Super quiet first period, super quiet second period. We're losing by 1, 8 minutes to go. I look at my buddy Elliot. I'm like, I'm doing something. And, he's like, like your friend, like, no, please don't. Right. Yeah. And I got up and the song was We Are Family. And I stood there and I looked at the crowd. I stood on my chair and started to dance on the seat. Yeah. Well, I don't know why I stood up on the seat. I don't know what happened. Yeah. And I was 100% sober that night. A lot of my friends will use the old, creative license there, but I was sober the first night. Yeah. And I don't think I would have done it if I'd been drinking. But anyhow, I sat back down and I'm like, what the heck did I just do? Mm-hmm. And that was truly the moment. But I believe I'm here. I believe I performed at 1,500 events because I got up the second time. Okay. Like, if you really think about it, we've all done something crazy or goofy or whatever, right? Yeah. And 10,000 people turn around the next whistle mark and they're like, come on, let's go.
So, so the same night.
Same night.
You get back up a second time.
Yeah, and that's the video footage of me that I posted yesterday is of me in the aisle. Yeah. If I just stayed in my seat, I don't think I'd be here.
That's right.
I really don't. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was wondering that yesterday because I looked at it and I thought the first night, but you were so into it. You were going up. You were doing what you do now.
Yeah,
right?
I was
25 years later.
Someone wrote on Instagram, it was awesome. They wrote, "You should dance up the stairs more."
Like, that's a good one. Yeah,
it's a good one. I was like, never thought of it like that. It's hard. It's hard at this age to dance.
How come he dances so much and he's still so fat? It's a joke. But that's the same joke, going up this.
Oh, yeah. You've been using that, yeah. It's the T-shirts. The goddamn T-shirts.
Yeah, you're right. It is the T-shirts.
But do you agree? Like,
yeah, 100%. For sure. It would have just been a one-off.
A funny moment.
But now
especially now with social media and the videos, like you capture that crazy fan at a game.
Yes.
And then it's over.
Right. I think a lot of those fans are because of you. I think a lot of that stuff that we see nowadays is because of the way you've danced. There's a lot of copycats out there, man.
Well, I think but I don't totally agree. But I think what's happened in sports entertainment is where we went for different phases, right? The big video boards and the reliance on jumbotrons and technology and Facebook and Twitter at the games. And now we're like, okay, let's get back to creating spontaneous fun. Mm-hmm. So when you see the fans now more and more, you're like, you want to be part of that, whatever it might be, kiss cams, the crazy women dancing, whatever that might be.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I saw the other day, like one of the ushers at one of the arenas was dancing. I'm like, 100% that guy's a plant. Yes. And guess what? He entertained the crowd for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, you do the plant thing sometimes too, right? I've seen that. The kiss cam or whatever. Like maybe it's just for the video you posted or whatever, but they're pretending. I mean, it's over the top. It's not like you're really pretending. You're kind of pretending. And
well, there was one kiss cam that went a little crazy.
That's good. So you got up the second time, and then the Senators contact you after that? Or?
After the game, they came up to me. I thought they were going to taser me, but they came up to me and asked me for my number. And I went back the next day. My dad's front page of the Ottawa sports section, dancing redhead bandit steal show at Senators game.
Yeah. And did they win the game? The first game?
No.
They lost the game? Okay.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I'm working at my local rink job. I was kicked out of university working at a hockey rink for $8 an hour. I thought that was the Canadian dream.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come back and dance. And I did it for the first year. I got jerseys, sticks, tickets. Remember we used to go?
Yeah. 100%.
And the next year they paid me. Guess, do you know how much they paid me the next year? Guess.
Per game?
Yeah.
$50.
No.
$20.
$250.
A game.
A game.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's the second season.
The second season, they asked me to be exclusive to the Senators that year.
Yeah.
But they didn't say anything about the playoffs. And then the next, where they didn't make the playoffs, my buddies were like, go to Toronto, see if it works there.
Yeah.
And I went to Toronto. It worked. They talked about me on Hockey Night in Canada. I drove home from Toronto.
Yeah.
I'm at a Tim Hortons on the 401. I'm like, this is what I'm doing for a living.
Really? At that point, you're number 2. You've decided this is it.
I don't know how, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's great because it is such a unique thing and it's working really well. And you're getting lots of attention. I mean, you still do, but at the time, right when it was fresh, I can remember going to the rink with you and everybody was like, hey, there he is. And remember, I don't know, like what your mental plan was at the time, but I remember, come on, do it now. You know, as if you need me to tell you when to do it.
No, but it was hard because it was hard to like do it now. Like now I know when to do it.
Right.
I know when the moment in the game, and some of it's obviously planned now. I'm first to admit it. You know, it's a big game. It's a choreographed game in some ways. And so it's like this timeout will be, okay, we're going to go to you. But back in the day, I didn't know. Yeah. And now I read the crowd better and, study it a bit more and try to be there at the right time.
So important to read the crowd, right? And as, a speaker and a comedian, that's the same thing is you got to get up there and you got to
Are you doing comedy?
Yeah. Mark Hatfield's Friday night. Every Friday at 7. Hey. Yucks. You should come.
It's Friday.
It is Friday. It's a few hours till kickoff for sure.
I'm there. I'll catch the first ball.
Okay, for sure. But it is true. You have to see. You have to meet them with the energy 100%. They already have. And like you said, you pick one person and the rest feel like they're part of it as well. There's so many little things, right? And I'm sure you've learned over the years that
But that what you just said is the key. Is you pick one person, but you make everyone feel like they're that person. Right. And that takes a lot of work. Yep. That doesn't just happen. And I look back from, 25 years ago, I look back at Bishops and in terms of crowd interaction techniques, all those different things. Yep. I mean, as a stand-up, from your first show to where you are now, I mean, your confidence factor. I mean,
confidence is
we're still working on it. We're still learning things. I still am. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Yep. Every time.
Every time I go, and that's what keeps it fresh. But it's every time you have that different interaction with the fans, with the the audience, something different happens. Right. And you learn from that. You don't know it. Yep. You can't plan it. And I think that's where you realize. That's what keeps you in the game. That's what keeps you still going on a Tuesday night. Like this past Tuesday, I'm in Minneapolis against the Ducks, 18,000 people. Well, they paid good money to go to that game. They're paying me great money to be there. So entertain them. Yep. They're losing 4-0, but give them a show.
Yeah. How many times do you dance during a game?
Oh my God, we should keep track. I don't know.
You don't even know? You don't say, I'm going to go up and dance 6 times? No. You just do it when you feel it? How does that work?
Well, I've got, they give me a couple hundred t-shirts, so I throw them out and I get up and there's 3 organized moments usually. Okay, 3, okay. In a game that's where it's a big moment with the stadium, big slow clap, big open, big whatever. Yeah. And the rest of it is just kind of go for it. Really?
That's impressive because you got to feel it, right? You got to know where to be, when to be there, the whole thing. That's I would have assumed it's all staged. It's all here, it's your time, Cam. You're on 5, and you go out there, but you just go out there and you're part of the crowd. That must be exhausting.
Yeah, the recovery is a little difficult.
That's hours of work.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. They think, oh, he's dancing for 6 minutes a game, but the whole time you're there, you're on, right? You're walking in the hallway. You're the guy that needs to get a high five.
But I also think, and this isn't tooting my own horn, but call it as you see it, is that there's a lot of acts in sports that I've met, that I've seen, that I've learned about, and they come on like a halftime at a basketball game. They perform for 5 to 7 minutes, Mark, and they're gone.
Yep.
So the guy or girl who's paying them is like, wait a minute. This guy Cameron's going to get my crowd going for the whole game. Bring him in.
Huge value.
And that's I've been lucky that way. You know, it's a lot of extra hustle, but it's fun.
Yeah. How many do you do a year?
70 to 80 the last little while.
So
last year was the craziest year of my life. I was on 190 airplanes.
190 airplanes.
Yeah,
Did you do frequent flyer miles? You get.
I have a few. Yeah, I have a red carpet when I get out of the house.
Well, what's the deal when you book a thing? They pay for your ticket, they pay for your hotel, car, and
t-shirts.
And t-shirts.
Yeah.
How many t-shirts?
I got to get masseuse in there somehow.
You definitely should. And so, how many t-shirts you give out a night?
About 100 to 200, depending on where I go.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a big part of it, right? Everyone always wants a t-shirt.
People love that,
and even if it's all sweaty, Cam sweaty.
Doesn't matter. That's what people call. I should have called myself the t-shirt guy. I've had a lot of names, but they call me the Igniter now in Vegas. I've done 34 games there.
That's impressive.
You like that?
The Igniter? Well, I think you are an Igniter for sure. It describes what you are. It makes it simple for people. But yeah, how's the relationship with that? How did that come about? Because they're a unique sort of franchise. You probably more than anyone know the ins and outs of professional sports franchises. I would assume that you like how they work, the efficiency of them working to the success in the crowd.
Vegas is amazing study because what they did from the beginning is they gave their fans permission to act any way they want, you know, and it's Vegas. So on a Tuesday night, it's like Mardi Gras meets Halloween meets like
really?
It's nuts. And all the fans dress up and every night, every game.
Is it to tourists at the game or
no? Well, sure. I mean, like if you're playing Minnesota one night or Edmonton or, you know, I did the Ottawa game last March and there was tons of Ottawa fans there. You know, a couple weeks ago, there was literally like apparently 4,000 fans from Toronto or more. Yeah. Like they come down and they plan their trip around it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And Vegas is hospitality. So all the fans treat them really well. You know, the city treats them really well. There's a great atmosphere before the game. They do the big intros. They do everything. Yeah. So Vegas has this permission to go like that. And they bring in, I did an intro with Blue Man Group last year, you know, like, I don't know if you saw it. And it was
I did. Yeah.
And it was like, that's not going to work anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
They come to me and I've got the blue face on, you know, sort of blue.
Yeah.
So like they have that sort of, you know, and people want to be part of it in Vegas, you know, Cirque du Soleil, and they sponsor my t-shirts sometimes, some of the games. So
they hook you up with a nice hotel room after?
Yeah. If you ever want to come, you got an extra.
Want to come.
Yeah, I'll get you a pull-out couch.
Yeah. we were in Vegas this summer, and it was eye-opener. Took the kids, for sure, walking up and down whatever that street is there, and you're just like, you see nudity, drugs, you know.
But you also see, like, what I love is let's do anything.
Yep.
Let's go for it.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
And I think that I've said to all these sports teams that I've talked to, that I've met with owners and VPs, is like, look, you can't replicate what they're doing in Vegas, but you can try stuff. And I know the president of the team there well, and he gives his VP of entertainment permission to try stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't work? I'll try this.
That's great.
Or move on.
Right. That's the way it should be. We're stuck in tradition and culture so much that it just hinders the development of things, right?
And even the Sens, I applaud them for bringing me in because it's like, it's just one night. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
You know, 25, do something.
So this is 25 years. You just said it was 94, right?
Almost exactly to the,
Wow.
About a month later.
A month later. So is it the advertising it that way? The dancing guy, the t-shirt guy, the Igniter's 25-year comeback, or?
I don't think they're really promoting it. We're just going to go to the game and be part of it.
Do your thing.
That's been an interesting part too, actually, looking back. Promoting versus showing up.
Yeah.
And I prefer just showing up.
For sure. 100%.
Give them, you know, I've been promoted at some events, and there was like a backlash because there were like, it was some game in Europe.
Interesting.
And they were like, we don't need him here, you know.
Right.
And the way they positioned it was like, we need him here for the atmosphere. And I'm like, you don't need me here for the atmosphere. I'm going to be part of the atmosphere.
That's a great.
And some reporter wrote like they need him, and fans are like, forget that.
Right.
So I've always been like, just show up. And for a lot of what I do, like the speaking now, I surprise people.
Yeah.
I'm in the back of the room and I heckled the president or the VP who's up there, and I'm like, this is boring. And they're like, what the heck's going on here?
That's a great idea, man. I like that a lot for sure.
And it works because it changes the tone. It changes the vibe in the room.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, for example, to be funny when you're going up on stage to not be funny. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
So that's and I know like there was guys. What was the guy? The wave guy?
Crazy George.
Like they would always, like you say, advertise that it was Crazy George night and stuff. And like you said, people are like expecting something that night, right? And then they're just kind of paying attention. But if there's a guy who gets up and starts going crazy, then like, that's the guy. Yeah. You know, that's
Well, I've done 34 games in Vegas. They still don't. I don't promote me going.
That's amazing. That's a great idea.
And not that we would, maybe it would get a few people excited, but that doesn't matter.
Right.
Show up and just,
Yeah, part of the entertainment, part of your experience.
Yeah. Which has also been like in some ways good and bad for my career overall, because you don't have the following, because they're not promoting you and they're not, they're not tagged, all that sort of stuff. But Mark, I'd rather perform in front of 70,000 people this week than sit at home looking for new followers.
70,000? Where's that?
I'm going to Syracuse tomorrow to do the Syracuse Duke game.
Tilt that up a little bit there.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Really? So they still call it the Carrier Dome?
Carrier Dome, Syracuse
and
Duke
it's
tomorrow.
70,000 people.
No. Well, this week, I mean.
Oh, so in total, all the people. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing a basketball game?
Yeah.
Wow. What's that like? What's the different sports like?
Basketball's a lot different. Hockey's easier for what I do.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it would be a great environment for that, because there's stoppages in play, and then people pay.
But everything's on the court, right? And hockey, you can't go on the ice in the middle of
it. So in the stands.
It's like in the stands.
Well, why don't you do it in the stands at basketball games?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I'm only in the stands, but there's so much more action on the court.
Oh, I see.
The dancers and the drum lines and all that sort of stuff.
For sure. And another interesting thing about your career is the U.S. Open story.
U.S. Open, yeah.
That's huge, right? Because tennis was so not like Cam Hughes friendly before you got there, right? And then I think you might have changed the U.S. Open, right? Is that a true statement? I think so. And I even see it. What's the guy's name there that you danced with?
Novak Djokovic.
Even him. I don't know if he was like that before, but I've paid attention to him now more, and he's way more open to being like that.
It's someone actually wrote a story about Novak before and threw in a few references, which was kind of cool.
Before the dancing thing?
Before the year he won, yeah.
Okay. And so that was the first year he won?
So what happened was he had said a few things about the crowd in New York that was immature, basically. Yeah. Sorry, Novak, if you're here. But he was younger, and he said some things, and New York fans take things personally. And then the year that I was there, the first year, I met him in the hallway, and I had the I Love New York thing that I...
Okay, well, let's do the whole story. Yeah. Let's do the story. How did you get in there? Because you tried to sell them your services, and they were like, "No thanks."
No way. Yeah,
we do not want it.
Zero chance. Yeah. Okay. Quiet, please.
Okay, so here's comes back to the confidence, right? How did it happen?
I went back to them and I said, "Give me 4 tickets, give me 1 shot, give me 1 dance." And it was a men's one dance. I have the email. I still have the email, and I said, cool. And $1.
Yeah.
True story.
Okay.
And I went to them and I said, I'll be in town. I wasn't going to be in town, but hey, do it whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
You kids out there. Anyhow, Thursday night, Nadal's playing. He's winning 5-2 in the second set. He's smoking the guy. It's Thursday night. It's the men's quarters. Places like you could feel it, but nothing was happening. And I got up 5-2, second set. Everybody Dance Now was the song. And I had a blue Adidas pullover. I ripped that off. I have this ridiculous pink shirt that I had on, and I ripped it off as I got to the bottom of the stairs, and I opened it up to my I Love New York shirt that I bought for $10 on the way to the game, which was the smartest $10 I've ever spent, because the crowd went nuts. And at the end of the timeout, the umpire's like, quiet, please, and the fans are still going crazy. The McEnroe brothers come in from timeout, and they go, look at these New York fans. They love their tennis. And it was like this guy from Ottawa.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And that was it. And they asked me to stay that weekend. I couldn't, but then they brought me back the next year and they paid me. And that's been 8 years. And then I had some great moments with some of the different players, including Novak Djokovic, who he talked about me after his press conference. On the court, and then afterwards, the head of entertainment, Michael Fuhrer, goes, "You've got to meet Novak when he walks out of his press conference. He's going to love this." And I happen to have an extra I Love New York shirt with me.
Nice.
Novak walks out. He's like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" You know what I mean? I'm like, I can't believe I'm meeting this guy. And we had a dance off in the hallway at the U.S. Open, and he won it that year. And I went to all of his matches, and I was almost on the press junket with him, going to like Letterman and going to all this stuff. And they talked about how he lightened up.
Yeah.
And I was a small part of it. That's it. But at the end of the day, you give someone a vehicle, you give someone a chance. And he was dancing after all his matches, and now he does, and he has been. He's always had that personality. I wasn't the one who was like, I'm not pretending to be the guy, but I was a little part of it.
The igniter.
I ignited him. And then I had a cool moment with Nadal, And then Roger Federer, I've performed at his charity event in the last 2 years, which has been like, what a thrill. Like last year, I would put that up there in one of my top probably 20 moments was getting at his charity event with Bill Gates.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me play tennis, which was weird. Anyhow.
Oh, didn't I beat you at tennis one time?
There's no way you beat me at tennis.
I think I did.
Yeah. You were wearing Kodiak boots.
Roger and I beat you and Brad.
There's no chance. What's up, guys?
Okay.
So I'm getting the wave going,
Yeah.
and Roger Federer is in his seat with Bill Gates doing the wave.
Bill Gates.
And then he gets up from his seat and he starts running around the court. While I'm doing the wave.
Yeah.
And then the wave won't stop. And there's a video of Roger Federer standing at the service line, going like this, yelling at me.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yelling at you.
Yeah. Stop getting the wave going. And then I saw him after the match in the hallway, and he was in hysterics laughing. He's like, I had to play, man. And I'm like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
This kid that won, all I've ever won was the sportsmanship award at the tennis club, and here I am hanging out with Federer.
Yeah.
All because someone gave me that shot, though. Let's back to that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that.
Back to the shot, man.
Someone at the U.S. Open said, let's think differently. Let's do something that we haven't done before.
Yeah.
Back to what we talked about.
Yeah. Did you get the dollar?
Sort of, yeah, eventually.
Is that the no?
I actually did. No, I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. It took a while.
Yeah.
5 years.
To get a dollar.
I got $1 cash, yeah.
Nice.
And 8 years, I'm still doing it. I mean, I don't know if
Still
I'll be
doing the
back.
U.S. Open?
Yeah, I did it last year.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That is great. It's like you forged your own path, which you have for 25 years now.
And they're also like, yeah, it's like I did a lot more than I went. Now I don't go as often, but it's still like, my whole thing is you don't know who it's their first night there. You don't know how many, you don't know who's been there.
100%.
So give them something.
Yep, same old material. I do that sometimes when I'm going in for comedy. I'm like, should I do the new stuff? I'm like, these people have never seen the old stuff. I don't want to cheat them out.
That's not fair to you.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
But don't you think, okay, even in your comedy world, in your speaking world, someone said, okay, Mark, I'm going to let you go on my stage.
Yes.
What made them say that?
Yeah, well, Mark Sluban, he's
sure, I know Mark.
10 years ago, yeah, he's the one who saw me. It was either on a news, the morning show, and I was doing an exercise business thing, or it was something like that, and he contacted me and said, yeah, let's do this, and he gave me the confidence, and he drove me to my first thing, and the whole bit. And yeah, no, I have a world to owe to him for sure, and he knows that, and I've told him that a few times. But he also does comedy too, and
but then in your comedy world, somebody said, okay, well, you had to give yourself your own confidence and your permission, which is hard. And I think it's like, even now, 25 years later, like, am I nervous to get up tonight? No. Do I have nerves? Yes. And if you don't, I don't think you should be there.
Right.
But my point is, someone like at the Senators, I know, she's like, hey, come to the game. Yeah. So someone always has to give you that shot.
Right, for sure.
And I think that we have to be, I had a really, on January 8th, the actual anniversary, I was in Vegas, I was doing the game, and I did a morning radio show, and they made me, like, amazing people there. And like, you're part of a community there. It's very special. And I was like, I cried like 2 or 3 times in the radio interview. I told my mom's story first, and then she starts telling her dad's story. Anyhow, the second part of the story was about how grateful I am for those people that have given me a shot and allow me to tour the world and meet so many great people.
Yeah.
And if you're not grateful for those opportunities, so then are they all amazing opportunities? Not always, but they're all going to lead somewhere.
Yeah.
And back to even Vegas was like, I knew the people that ran the Vegas Golden Knights from other teams from 12 years ago. And then they called me because we had a good relationship.
Right. It is all about the interpersonal relationships for sure, which you are one of the best that I've ever met for sure. Our mutual friend Mark Stepnowski, also a great communicator. But I mean, there's like 3 or 4 people who on my birthday, I know the phone's going to ring. And it's always, Cam Hughes, whether or not, I
know, even if we haven't talked in a while,
or talked in a long time, I know that that's going to happen for sure. And I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Is and in comedy, it's the same. If you're nice to the people around you and you're friendly and you do what they ask, then they're gonna call you back.
Yeah, even I've had a few moments where things don't go well, and I still to this day, like, I can count them. Maybe that something happened. Maybe it was out of your control, and I'm like, it still like sort of bothers me because I'm like, that's not who I am, or whatever it might have been, and you're like, oh. Because you want to be easy to work with, you want to give value, but you also sometimes you have to have integrity and stick up for what you believe in, and that doesn't always end well,
For sure, I still think of that story. Maybe you can help me out with the actual.
We should write a book together.
Yeah, but it's you answered the phone, or someone left a message on your phone.
Oh yeah,
and it was the wrong number, and then you called them back, and they were like, "I need a ride from the airport." and somebody left it on your answering machine, and you're like, oh, I have no idea who this is, but I'm going to go to the airport, and you picked her up? Out of the blue? It was not out of the blue started like that?
It was something out of the blue. It was a friend of mine in Toronto who was doing advertising, and I used to leave crazy voicemails for her, and she left me a couple of voicemails, and she was locked out of her house, I think.
Okay.
I think it was something, yeah. And I went and showed up and helped her out, and I remember like going by like a Max Milk and buying a box of popsicles because it was hot.
Yeah.
And she like never forgot it and called me up and said, hey, do you want to do the radio ads out of the blue? Because she thought it was funny on the voice messages. Yeah. And I did it for 3 years, and it was like super cool experience.
That was a big deal, right? That was a lot of fun. That was a big deal for you, for sure. That's amazing. Okay, so top 5 regrets. You said you had a...
Well, one of my regrets was when you were playing for the Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
With Mark Stepnoski, Big Whiskey. Do you remember? You know where I'm going with this?
I know. I remember a time. For sure.
So you're in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
And it's as hot as balls. And I showed up, and I remember we have the picture of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We're on the sidelines, and I knew Steps, and I knew Jim Reed, and I come down, and I visit you guys and say hi, and you guys are in the offensive line meeting.
Okay.
And
yes.
In you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly.
In one of the rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm outside, and you guys didn't know I was there yet. I was surprising you.
Did not know.
And to this day, I regret not opening the door and going, hello? Hello?
It was probably locked, for
yeah,
sure.
It was probably locked.
So this is my perspective on that crazy story. Here I am in this other world where like the two worlds hadn't really met. You had met Step and Whiskey at the
But didn't know them that well, though, yeah.
Yeah, so here I am in this other foreign, like could have been the Mars, the moon, whatever. I mean, like I felt like it was a basement, and we're having these meetings, your life is on the line, and we're watching game film or practice film, and here I am in that world. And I remember hearing a ruckus out in the hallway, and then there's a window on the door, and I just see your head pop into it with like a cowboy hat on. And you're like, oh my God. And that was one of those great moments. And you talk about the small little things that you do, which isn't small to be, and
show up.
Just show up.
I think that's like
show up.
I've got one of the friend of mine, Andy Nolman, used to run the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
And after a big comedy festival event I did a couple years ago, a friend of mine said, Andy, what advice would you give Cameron? And I'm like, oh my God, here it's coming. Andy's one of the guys who was involved with Chris Rock and Jim Carrey, and he was one of the founders, and he's just this guy, Mm-hmm. And he puts his hand on my shoulder. It's the end of the festival. We're all at the bar having a couple of drinks, and he looks at me and he goes, keep showing up.
Yep.
And Mark, I look back on it, and anytime I'm like, you're tired and you realize like you got to go to the next thing, and you show up, and we all think, oh, this is going to happen. Oh, because I'm here, I did the Olympics, this is going to happen.
Yep.
That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But you keep showing up, and it's going to add up.
Yep.
And I wish someone had told me that a little earlier,
mm-hmm.
Because, the guy from the Blue Jays hired me a couple years ago to do this other event from the Blue Jays. That was 18 years ago.
Yeah.
But it all comes full circle if you show up.
Yeah, it all adds up for sure. 100%. Yeah, that's another one of the the things I've noticed about you is just show up, right, man? You're always there. That's one of the speaking things too. Don't stress about anything else. Just make sure you're there 10 minutes early, man, and everything. Yeah, they want someone to stand there and talk into a microphone, right? Just don't worry about the little stuff. You're going to take care of it. It's going to.
Well, I think we all get a little preoccupied with that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that for my speaking career, and I know for yours, like. I used to outline everything and this and that, and now I'm like, okay, I've got my outline. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to go from the heart.
Right.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
And if that's what I think that's why they want you there.
Yeah.
What are you going to leave them? Well, your passion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Give them your energy, man. That's the number one thing they take away is how you made them feel.
So
right?
I know this is your podcast, but can I ask you some questions?
Yeah,
Since
sure.
We've been
100%.
friends for.
Yeah.
How long is it now?
Since 91. It's our
1990.
1990.
Do we have an anniversary coming up?
This is our 29th year anniversary for sure.
Wait, 29 years?
We'll be 30. It'll be 30 years.
Wow, we got to do something for our 30th.
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's get some watermelons.
Let's do it. We'll go on a honeymoon. We'll go to Punta Cana.
I was thinking more like Lennoxville.
Let's go to Lennoxville. Let's go to homecoming.
Yeah. Okay.
Has it been 30?
Yeah.
No, the year just changed. It'll be 29. We can't do it this year.
Okay, we can't do it this year. Sorry, Bishops.
Yeah.
Looking back, like you started off playing football and where you are now, like what's your, like, I've had my 25 years of going, okay, wow, and you had your years in pro football and firefighter and just sort of stuff. Like, how do you look back and like, what's your reflection? Like, what's like in your gut? Like, what do you go, hey, like I did this, or is it a bit of everything?
It's definitely a bit of that. And like you said, I appreciate everything that's happened, the people who have done things for me. Looking back, you have this ability to see, I think was it Bill Gates or Steve Jobs says you only look back to connect the dots. You see those things, you see those people who helped you, you see those obstacles you had to overcome, and then that makes sense. And then you can sort of connect them to where you are today, for sure. And it hasn't really been, for me, it hasn't been about playing football, and it hasn't been about doing comedy and be a firefighter and all those things. It's been about doing the best that I can in the things that I wanted to do and taking them in that direction. Because my football career wasn't super long, but I achieved it and I got there and I did what I wanted.
100%.
And then I moved forward.
And celebrate that.
And move forward. Because, I mean, life is so short, right? And you just got to keep moving. And then the relationships that you've made over the time, for sure. Everyone always goes, oh, what was it like in Houston? And I think about Step and whiskey, right? I think about the buddies I had, right? And the football is so secondary, although at the time it was everything. But you don't realize that the guy sitting next to you is the one who's actually the reason you're there and the impact you're having. I mean, football is great for that, but then it's like you think about bishops and the people that you met, like, what did you learn? Well, we mentioned it earlier, we did learn something. There's definitely value to that education, but it's really about the interpersonal relationships that you forged and learning to sort of live in a group and work together and just to keep going and showing up every single day, right?
Well, yeah, and anytime anyone from Bishops has ever had anything heartbreak, or you see the support, like, through Facebook, and you see the names and you're like, wow. How lucky were we to be part of that community? I like what you said, though, because I think it's also something that we young people, I wish someone had told me. And this happened to me when I moved to LA. It's I think a great story. My buddy, I get there and he goes, Cam, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Celebrate your victories. And he's like, celebrate that you made it here. I drove down there in a minivan. That's another story. But it was like, it made me realize, like, it doesn't mean you celebrate because you had an audition and you think it went well, but you sort of do. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're like, I got the part, but celebrate, like, have that moment where you're like, okay, I appreciate that just happened, and move on. But you've had like bigger things because you've worked your ass off for them too. Like when I saw you, when you were doing your personal training stuff and, your different clinics, like you went full on, and that's why you've been successful at these different things you've done. And I think that's a great lesson for people, is like, there isn't just one path. I'm getting all excited, Mark.
I like it, for sure. But you're absolutely right. And it's a personality trait, I think, is to be able to work hard, to know what you're passionate about. This is the key, right? You have to focus on something. And then the thing I learned on this podcast from Drew Lynch, you know Drew Lynch?
Sure, yeah.
He won,
I do know him,
America's Got Talent or whatever. And
he was in here?
He was on this podcast. We did it at Yuck Yucks. But there's little messages I've learned from every single one of these, right? And what he said is, it's motivation, action first, and then motivation. So when 100%. you don't feel like doing something, is when you got to just start doing it, and then you're going to want to do it more. Right? Like if you sit around and wait to write that great novel, it's never going to happen. But if you sit down and start writing something, then you're going to, oh yeah. And then, so, when you want to do something, and that sort of happened, organically to me before, like I wanted to play football. So I just kept working at it. And then as I worked at it, I was in that world and I was motivated to keep doing it. And it's the same for like writing comedy jokes. You start writing something out, something happens and you write it down and then you think of something else. So it all comes.
And you had those people that supported you because you put it out there.
Yeah.
Which is hard. Which is hard to do. And I think that's the other thing that's hard to do, especially with comedy, which I applaud you for doing, and is that it's really hard to get on that stage.
Yes.
Which, whatever your stage is in life, like as soon as you get out there, you're like, all right, here I am. Yep. And you feel pretty naked,
So,
are you going to help me write my book? Because I got to finish it.
Yeah, isn't that the great thing? Everyone wants to write a book, and how do you write it? You just start writing.
You just do it. Yeah,
for sure.
I'm halfway.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you write it, on a computer or by hand?
I write it on my wall. Yeah.
Oh, do you still do that? Because you used to always write things out on giant sheets. No, that's an impressive thing, right? Like I wish that's like a lot of people keep that in their mind and it never happens. But you put it up on an actual physical piece of paper, what you want to do and the steps you're going to do. Like you are the ultimate like goal setter right there, man.
Well, I've had some crazy walls in my day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that at first to map out what the book looked like, and I blurted it out a couple weeks ago that I was finally doing it.
That's great.
I need to finish it. It's hard. It's very hard, but I think if I do an hour a day, even,
that'll get it done, man. There's at least 300 hours in a year.
Yeah, I heard that.
And then you get someone else to edit it, to put it all together.
Oh yeah, man. I'm not a writer. I don't know for those of you who ever marked any of my exams. But
we know you failed out second year. Everyone knows the story. They've been listening for
an hour. I went back.
You did go back. Yeah, let's finish that story. So you went back. Did you miss 2 years or 1 year?
I was in and out for 2 years. Like I was back and forth for those 2 years. And I went back at 24 years of age.
Yeah.
I was on the weekends. I was going to do NHL and NBA games all over North
Is
America.
that right? See, I was already gone at that point.
You were
right?
gone.
Yeah.
You were in, I think you were in Houston or Miami.
Okay.
And I was at Bishop's. I remember showing up first day in a shirt and tie. Everyone's like, "What's this freak doing?"
Shirt and tie.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm like, "I'm in. Let's go."
That's awesome.
And I graduated. And I won the Jeff Cannon Memorial Award that year. They didn't want to give it to me. And the Cannon family said, if you don't give it to Cameron, we're withdrawing our support from Bishops. I get goosebumps.
That's great. Is that the Spirit kind of award?
It was an outstanding contribution to the life of the school.
Wow, that's huge.
And I won it. You know this story?
No.
So I won it. My dad and sister are in the gym.
Yeah.
Tom and Linda Allen, God bless them, they came, which was amazing. Speaking of support.
Yeah.
And they're there. And I win the award, and they tell me after I get the diploma to sit in the front row because you're going to be winning this award. No. I don't tell anyone else that I'm winning the award. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll sit in the front row. Sure. I go back to my seat in like third last row.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Jeff Cannon Memorial, Cameron Hughes. And I get up, and I start to go crazy, and I stop midway at the Plex. And I start the school song, Raise a Toast.
Nice.
And I had the whole students singing Raise a Toast as I came up on stage and grabbed my Jeff Cannon Memorial Award. And that was one of the greatest moments I ever had at Bishop's, right there.
That's beautiful.
Because I was like, you know what? That's just being me. And the students were like, let's go. And my family was super proud. So I finished it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite a journey, man. That's an hour and 5 minutes.
Hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, we did it.
Wow.
That's I know we could go on for ever and ever, but you've got
it's
a
pretty
date
cool.
with Brian Murray.
Very cool full circle hats.
Yeah.
Sweet hats.
Sweet Hats is in the house with Melonhead.
Melonhead.
And the Igniter, which is cool. It's a Vegas kind of nickname. The Igniter.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, that was great, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark Hatfield.
And we're going to take these off and stop.